Welcome to The Unlikely Executive, the podcast where passion meets purpose. Here we share stories of people who have transformed their lives and the world around them by following what truly drives them. I'm Barbara Carlisle, an executive coach and mentor for non-profits, and I help people who want to make a positive impact actually do it. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome to the Unlikely Executive Podcast. This week my guest is Matt Cliff, CEO of Bradbury Fields. Hi Matt.
Hi Barbara, are you okay?
I'm good, thank you. Can I ask you to introduce yourself, please?
Introduce myself. I'm Matt Cliff. As of about 3 months ago, I became the Chief Executive at Bradbury Fields, Services for Blind and Partially Sighted People. I've been involved with the charity for a few months. As a person, I am a husband, I am a father of 3 children, and I have loads of other interests, predominantly sports and different activities like that.
So sports, children, wife, and CEO of Bradbury Fields is you in a nutshell.
Ish, there or thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see how the conversation
what are we missing
goes.
out? You said there and thereabouts. What's missing?
I don't know. We'll find out. See how the conversation goes, really.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And can you tell me what made you want to apply for the role of CEO and how you ended up as the CEO of Bradbury Fields?
So it's interesting, really, because I didn't apply to be the CEO. So I joined Bradbury Fields 3 years ago. I'm coming up for 3 years. I'm Bradbury's Valentine, I always say, because I joined on the 14th of February in 2022. And that was 5 months after they'd merged with another organisation. So although I joined as the head of Bradbury Fields, the Director of Bradbury Fields Services, we were a division within a larger charity. So my role was officially director at that point. As of the 1st of October last year, we demerged. That effectively reversed the merger that had taken place in 2021. And so I became chief executive in as much as the new board of trustees of Bradbury Fields appointed me as such. You know, I was thinking about this leading up to this podcast. When I started the job as the divisional lead, the director, I remember joking with the CEO at the time of the other charity, saying that in 5 or 10 years I'll have your job. And 3 years later, I'm a CEO in my own right. It's really quite amusing.
So is that ambition I hear in that then? You were joking saying I'm going to have your job in 5 to 10 years, but actually 3 years later you got it.
There's got to be some truth in the idea of that being ambitious, Barbara. Yeah, definitely. I set out to take on a senior job within the charity, within a charity of sight loss, a local charity. My previous job had been with a national sight loss charity, a regional management role, an engagement role, working with volunteers. And that was my first sort of look into this sector, if you like, the sight loss sector professionally.
So you were looking into the sight loss sector when you worked for a national organisation. What were you doing before that, Matt?
So believe it or not, when I left school, I wanted to be an accountant.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to do. So
Yeah.
I spent a few years training, doing my AAT qualifications. I qualified as an accountant technician. My sporting interests led me to a job working for a charity that specialised in disability sports and disability access in a finance role, because that was my qualifications and my professional background. But because I was doing a lot of sport, it appeared quite heavily on my CV. So the recruitment agents at the time put them together. That was my first job in a charity. I then went to work for other charities, youth charities, disability charities, tried roles within sports development because I really enjoyed it, and actually found it wasn't for me as a profession, as a job. I love
the accountancy side of stuff,
the accountancy, the sport, all of those different things. I really like numbers, and that's what, when you go to school, you're good at numbers. Everyone says you should be an accountant. That was my experience, and I quite like numbers. I understand numbers. It helps me in the current job. It is one of the skills I bring into my current role, and I love sport. If this was a sporting podcast, half an hour wouldn't be enough for me to talk about it, because I'm that passionate about disability.
You will get a chance to talk about your sporting passions in a sec.
But as a job, it wasn't for me, really, actually getting involved in charity work. So I've worked for youth charities, disability charities, just got much more from it, and being in a position to influence decision making. That's what appealed to the role that I've got, really, being able to make a difference. I don't have all the skills necessary to run every element of any charity I've ever worked for, and I don't believe any CEO does. But we've got a good team around me, and that's the key to it, really.
Yeah. So you're quite interested in being able to influence and have an impact. And what impact does Bradbury Fields currently have on those it serves?
So Bradbury Fields, it's been going since 1857. Would you believe it's a very old charity, one of the oldest in Merseyside. It's formerly the Liverpool Voluntary Society for the Blind. So it's always been about making a difference to the lives of people with sensory loss, particularly blind and partially sighted people. We do a lot of statutory services. We operate under Liverpool Council, Knowsley Council, a little bit under Sefton as well, doing what's called statutory sight loss rehabilitation. So things like mobility skills, communication skills, living skills. It might be teaching someone to use a long cane, like the cane I've got here on the desk in front of me. It might be teaching someone to use a computer, a phone, how to prepare food, basic living skills, whilst combating sort of sight loss and finding ways to cope with that. So it's huge. It's about enabling people to live life in some of those services. But then again, you've got what we call our health and wellbeing services. So things like we run technology sessions, peer support groups, social activities, sports activities, braille clubs, art clubs, a whole range of different activities. And whilst that might seem really straightforward, if you're blind or partially sighted, you can't necessarily just go and access the mainstream equivalents. In some cases you can, but to refer to something like sport, as a blind person myself, I can't just go to my local football team and just start playing. Because I need adapted equipment, I need adapted resources, people who understand what they are dealing with. So Bradbury Fields, it brings a whole wealth of experience around supporting and serving blind and partially sighted people.
And has Bradbury Fields got a base, or do you go out to people in the community? What's the model?
Our main centre is the Bradbury Centre. We're based on Ewan's Way in Knotty Ash. We've had a few different locations over the 170 or so years we've been in existence. But where we are now, we're sort of border close to Liverpool and Knowsley. A lot of our work is out in the community. So the statutory rehab we tend to do in people's home addresses. We hold and maintain the registers for sight loss. So people who are registered blind or partially sighted in Liverpool or Knowsley are on our databases. And that initial assessments and independent living skills, those sorts of things, they're done in people's homes because that's where they've got to learn to live, if you like.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of centre-based activities. We to talk about my vision for the charity, which I hope we'll get onto shortly. It would be to do a lot of those centre-based activities, but right across Merseyside in more community-based locations. That's what I would like to see us do, because not everyone wants to go to the Bradbury Centre in Ewan's Way.
Yeah. And how many people use your services? How many people have you got on your books?
So between Liverpool, Knowsley and other areas, we've got somewhere in the region of 5,000 people on our database. There are hundreds of people accessing the centre every week. For some people who get registered blind or partially sighted, their only intervention from us might be that they get registered. We go and do an assessment.
Yeah.
They see what their immediate needs are. Not everyone will come to Bradbury Fields to access regular activities. Not everyone needs to or wants to, but they might still need a little bit of help. They might need an appliance marking up at home so it becomes tactile rather than visual. They might need some assistance in sort of technical skills around using a long cane or a symbol cane, something like that. And we might not necessarily see them again for quite some time. My own personal experience as someone living with visual impairment, I was diagnosed as a very young child. I was taught to use a cane when I was 10 years of age, something like that. And up until the last couple of years, I never really had any more training with my long cane.
Right.
I just survived, if you like. In fact, I went 10 years without a cane. I lost a cane in my late teenage years. I won't tell you how, but I lost my cane and I went.
Okay, why can't you tell me how?
So I was slightly inebriated,
okay,
and I lost my cane, and so I went 10 years without a long cane, and I survived. Now my condition, I've always suffered with night blindness, tunnel vision, and so over night time I've always really struggled. As I've got older, my sight got worse, and now I struggle visually over daytime as well. I can't read, write, or see any detail at all, so I rely on a cane. But for that 10 years without a cane, I just survived, if you like. I got by. But when I got to 27-ish, it was when I decided I needed to get a cane again, because I had young children.
Right.
I couldn't keep walking into fences and bus stops while I was holding my little girl's hand. So I got a cane again, and carried on using it, wanting to do some more and maintain my independence, learning some new routes. I've just recently started a little bit of mobility training again myself, learning some new routes, because otherwise you can, and I have become dependent on people taxis, when there's nothing wrong with that, I would say.
Yeah.
But for me, I wanted just a little bit more independence. And so charities like Bradbury Fields are there, if people need that sort of support, they might get back in touch with us and say, actually, I'd like to do a little bit of route work, or, I'm struggling with a particular appliance. The way technology's changed over the last few years, there's been a big swing in people wanting to learn more around assistive and smart technology, for instance, which might not have been the case a decade ago.
Yeah. And can I ask, of the 5,000 people who access your services, are they of a particular age cohort, or is there real diversity in the age of people who you support?
Sight loss doesn't discriminate, first and foremost, so it can be someone of any age. The vast majority of people accessing our services will be 65 plus, because a lot of sight loss conditions are age related. We try to do a lot of targeted work for people of working age, because 3/4 of people living with sight loss of working age are unemployed. So it's a staggering statistic compared to the national average. Most of our services, our statutory services, are adult services. We do some children's services, and we try to do some work with families as well. But we work with other charities to do that too.
So you work in partnership?
Absolutely, yeah.
And it seems obvious to me that the reason you're focusing on becoming CEO and contributing to Bradbury Fields is because of your own personal experience of sight loss.
Absolutely. We talk about lived experience. We talk about lived experience role modelling, something I'm a huge advocate for. My first insight to the sight loss sector, if you like, was through sport. And I found that by accident. I didn't want to be disabled. I didn't want to live with sight loss. I didn't want to try blind sports, for instance. And because I got good, again, by chance, these things for me, a lot of my life has been by chance occurrences. That doesn't mean I can't do it. I'm not capable. It means things have happened to me by chance. But I got spotted in a mainstream school as being reasonably okay at running. That led me to try some disability competitions, because they put me in a mainstream school team. So I thought, I'll give it a go. My athletics saw me as a world champion as a junior in 2004, which I can't believe that ever happened to me.
In running,
yeah. As
congrats.
As a sprinter many years ago now.
Yeah.
But I used to joke with people that I was on the Z team. My school, when we were younger, we had rugby, cricket teams, cross country teams. So we had A teams, B teams, C teams, and I always used to jest that I was with the Z teamers, because I was with the people who couldn't do sport as much as I wanted to. And I found this hidden talent. And as I say, I could go on about sport for forever and a day. But the key is that led me to meet other visually impaired people, and that's what changed my life. I used to worry about whether I'd be able to meet a partner, have children, work, own my own home, all of those sorts of things. They were things I had genuine fear around, because I associated a disability with being a barrier to those sorts of things. Meeting other blind people completely changed my life. Through my athletics, first of all, I met a family called the Turnhams. Mother, Sue, completely blind, 3 completely blind children, and her husband has partial sight in one eye. And I met them through athletics. And I always tell people this, and they won't mind me mentioning the name. Well, I certainly hope they don't. But I used to go around to their house. She would be making the tea, doing everything that anyone else would do, that you would expect in anyone else's home. The difference was the appliances talk to you.
Right.
There'd be a guide dog or 2 roaming around their house, because a lot of them had guide dogs. And that family absolutely changed my life, because they showed me things that I didn't think were possible. And it's absolutely staggering. And that's why I get so passionate about these sorts of activities. And sport isn't for everyone. There are lots of activities that we run at Bradbury Fields that I wouldn't necessarily do in my spare time, because they're just likes and dislikes, but lots of people get so much out of them. But the important bit is getting to meet other people with sight loss and see how other people are coping.
Yeah, and doing things that you enjoy doing.
Absolutely,
with others.
Absolutely,
it's brilliant. Can you tell me a little bit, Matt, about what your vision is for Bradbury Fields?
It's interesting. That was one of the questions I was asked at an interview.
It's not, well, it is an interview, but there's no monetary reward at the end of this, I'm afraid.
My 4th interview for the role, I went through 4 interviews to get this position, and that was one of the last questions they asked me, was what was my vision for Bradbury Fields. And it was to see a busy, bustling environment. I said to you, there's 5,000 people on our databases. There isn't 5,000 people accessing regular activities. there isn't 5,000 people reaping the benefits of peer support. And it may not be for everyone, but I think there is an opportunity for more people out there to get to learn more and to almost be loud and proud about being someone living with sight loss. It can be seen as a hidden disability, and some people do hide it. That will have been part of the reason I didn't walk around with a cane for a long time, because people were worried about the attention that it might draw to you. But I am a blind person, and I'm quite proud of that. And I think Bradbury Fields, for me, the vision would be that we're busy morning, noon, and night. There are activities whenever that people want them, would be my long-term vision. But also, as I said earlier, right across Merseyside in community locations, but also building on awareness in other sectors, in other activity providers. We deliver visual awareness training at Bradbury. We've delivered it at places like the lifestyle centres in Liverpool, offering education to the people that work there around how to support someone living with sight loss. So a greater education right across the Merseyside and the wider city region would be fantastic, really, for us to be a pivotal part of that.
And who do you have in your team to support you to do this, to bring your vision alive?
So our team at Bradbury Fields, firstly, they're amazing. And so I don't want to name names in case I forget someone. We've got 30 odd staff working for us at Bradbury Fields, but we have got an excellent team right across. We've got people working in our statutory rehabilitation services. So the people that are going to homes, doing assessments, teaching people long cane, marking up appliances. We've got people delivering health and wellbeing activities, whether that is coordinating them, helping them get there, whether that is actually delivering some of the activities. We've got people working in fundraising, marketing, finance, administration. All of those support services make the wheels of industry turn at Bradbury Fields. And I have to say as well, we've got some amazing volunteers too. But a lot of our activities, we offer transport, some of our activities on a daily basis, and predominantly they are the minibuses that we offer transport on are driven by volunteer drivers. We have volunteers that do sighted guiding on some of the activities like walking, volunteers that tandem cycle, volunteers sometimes that just offer befriending services, by telephone. We have volunteers that run our gardens and help others to do bits of garden. We've got a huge team of people around us
who can help.
Yeah.
And in terms of your growth as a leader, what strengths do you bring to this role?
Again, a very interesting question, because the role has happened for me. And one of my favourite lines to my team is, it's not really my bag, that, because I want to rely on the skills that others have got, not get the best out of them. But I think actually that unearths a skill of being able to effectively listen to those around me, work with others, support others. I do have practical skills and practical experience. I do love things like my numbers, but I think one of the key things is I'm a good communicator. In my time with Bradbury Fields, which I'll say it's only been 3 years, we've offered roles around representation on the board for the staff and other communication pathways. And the feedback we get is that actually they trust me, our team trusts me, which leads me to believe that my communication skills are good, are positive. And I think that is key to being an effective leader.
And what would you say you needed to work on as a leader?
I would honestly say ask those around me. I think I suffer terribly with imposter syndrome, so I would tell you that there's loads and loads of things I could work on. I will make a decision when I have to, and I suppose perhaps I try and juggle too many things at times.
Thank you for sharing that.
That was a challenge, that's.
And as CEO of Bradbury Fields, what have you had to give up, if anything, to do the role effectively?
I'm not so sure so much about giving up. I think what I have to be mindful of is my role within the sector. So I have a CEO role within Bradbury Fields, but I'm also in the sight loss sector as a service user, if you like. So I wouldn't say I've had to give up anything specifically. A lot of the sports activities, for instance, that we signpost people to at Bradbury Fields, I participate in. For many years, I coached them and set up a lot of them. And I wouldn't say I've had to give up some of that. I have prioritised things. I am doing some less of the coaching than I used to do, because the demand on this role, I've had to be mindful of the pressure on me and getting a good work-life balance. For me, it's really important to have a good work-life balance, and I love doing voluntary work, which most of my sporting ambitions and sporting leadership roles and coaching roles have always been voluntary, but I've got to get the balance right.
Yeah. And can you tell me a little bit about what sports bring you to life? What's your passion?
Ooh, I could talk at length for so many of them. I started off as a sprinter. That was my first passion, and that ceased in 2009. I was laughing really. My last tournament as a sprinter was European Championships in 2009, and it was about 6 weeks before my eldest daughter was born. And I had friends who told me, that's the end of your running career. And I was like, no chance, mate, no chance. And lo and behold, it stopped in 2009.
Because your daughter was born.
Yeah, my life changed,
Yes.
habits changed. But at the same time, in 2009, that's when I set up a first voluntary multi-sports club called Savvy Northwest. So it was set up as a multi-sports group originally, and we did things like tennis, cricket, football, goalball. And over the years, we've set up other teams. Merseyside's blind football team, the Wales visually impaired cricket team. All of these I've played on and had lots of fun doing. We do some tandem cycling, which I do a lot, and that's my main sort of fitness activity at the moment is cycling. I've done a few challenges. Me and Jess, who's our maintenance manager at Bradbury Fields, actually, we did the 103-mile Tour de Man around Anglesey last year for fun, just because we wanted to do that.
For fun, not fun raising, just
no, that
for
particular
fun.
one was for fun. No, we did do. I did a fundraising tandem ride last year dressed as Brad the Elephant, who's our pink elephant mascot at Bradbury Fields. So
I missed that.
I abseiled down Liso Lighthouse and then did a 44-mile tandem ride dressed as Brad the Elephant last year. So that was the fundraiser last year from a sporting point of view. But one of my latest sporting thing that's probably I'm most passionate about at the moment is baseball. Discovered baseball a few years ago. It's a fairly new blind sport. And 3 years ago, I got selected to represent Great Britain. I've now competed 3 times with a GB baseball jersey on, and I have to say, I thought my GB days were long behind me, and it's probably my sprinting legs that just about keep me on that team because I'm quite quick around the bases, to be honest. But yeah, I absolutely love that. But again, the key is meeting new people. For example, at the baseball, we're working with the Liverpool Trojans Baseball Club, a mainstream club based in Liverpool. And one of the most enjoyable things is having fun and having a laugh with the sighted guys as well that come and support our team when we're playing and competing. You know, there's a social at the end of every session, which is great, really.
Can you just describe for listeners who may not be aware of how baseball actually happens?
So blind baseball, baseball itself is not a particularly common sport in this country. I have to say, when someone first talked to me about blind baseball, it didn't appeal to me at all. For those who don't understand baseball, and those that do will hate me saying this, it's a bit like rounders, but baseball players don't like you saying that. Well, blind baseball, so the ball isn't pitched or thrown at you. You hold the ball in one hand and you hit with the bat in your other hand. The ball has bells in it, so it makes a noise because all of the blind players in baseball are blindfolded. You run around the bases to sound. So first base has a buzzer buried in the ground, which you run around. Second and third base have sighted assistants that clap and guide you in. As you get closer to the base, they clap quicker, and that's when you slide. And I'm one of few people in this country that slide headfirst, blindfolded into the dirt. And I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it, to be honest. It's when it comes to my sport, I like the adrenaline, really. And whilst I'm still able to do that, I will keep doing it. And from a fielding point of view, because the ball's making a noise, again, blindfolded, you pick up the ball when you find it, and then you have to throw it to a fully sighted catcher. If you get the ball to your catcher before the opposition gets to base, then they're out.
Right.
And basically, you've got to get all the way around to score a run without being out from the opposition.
Yeah.
That's the most simple way I could put it.
It sounds complicated in a sense of there's lots of things you have to remember and think about.
It is complicated if you break it down in those little bits. Once you get into it and play it, it's easier to follow and easier to understand. As a sport, as a blind sport, it's amazing because it's got so many different skills, more so than other activities that I've tried over the years. For those that like the running like me, it's a great sport because you don't need a guide runner. With my level of sight now, I would need a guide runner, which I didn't when I was younger. Other people like to hit the ball really, really hard, so they get to do that. Others like to dive around the floor looking for the ball, so it's got that to offer as well. Some people like to throw really hard, really fast, really far. It's got that to offer. So it's absolutely brilliant sport.
Fantastic. And before we wrap up, you've been in the role for just around 3 months. What would you recommend to a new CEO who had just started working in a new organisation?
I would say, don't be afraid to ask for help. You hear people regularly say that CEO role is a lonely role, it can be an isolated role. I will reach out to other CEOs I know in other sectors to ask questions, ask for help. I lean on our board of trustees. It is lonely in as much as there are ultimate decisions that you've got to make, but there are people out there to help. So I would say reach out to others, ask for help.
Yeah, don't suffer alone and think you have to be the hero.
Absolutely. And I don't think there should be an expectation for you to do everything within an organisation. A CEO is one person. It's one role within an organisation.
Yeah.
You're not everything, and you can't be all things to all people all of the time.
Yeah, and it's like you said before, if it's not your bag, it's not your bag. It doesn't mean that it can't get done by somebody else.
No, absolutely. And as I said, at Bradbury Fields, we've got a phenomenal team, because of the organisational changes that we've had, which have led to my becoming CEO. We've got some work to do as a charity. We're currently looking to recruit some new trustees to fill some skills gaps. We're looking at our strategy for the next 5 years. We're doing some business planning. We know where we are financially in the short term, but as a charity, we've got to do planning for the next 3 years, next 5 years, the next 25 years.
You've got lots on your plate, plus the sport, plus the family. And what would you like people to take away from the conversation we've had today?
I'd like people to take away, don't be afraid of what might be. Have some faith in what will, which may sound a little bit cliche.
Yeah.
Things happen for a reason. Sometimes things are, but some of the things we haven't touched on, just for me personally, my journey from wanting to be an accountant 20 odd years ago to being a CEO now hasn't been straightforward. I have experienced sight loss. I've been through the depths of despair and mental health problems around going blind, for instance. But things have happened for a reason. The life experiences I have had have happened for a reason, and it's led me to where I am. So yeah, cliche or not, I would say just have a bit of faith in what's coming.
Have a bit of faith in what's coming. Matt, thank you ever so much. And if people wanted to get in touch with you, how should they do that?
So I am on LinkedIn. I'm not the most active person on social media, but I am on LinkedIn. But you can always get onto the Bradbury Fields website as well, or do it the old-fashioned way and call the Bradbury Centre as well.
What's the number for the Bradbury Centre? That's the test for you, right? Okay.
So the Bradbury Centre's phone number is 0151 221 0888. For those that might just want a bit of information about our activities, it's the same number, but instead of 888, it's 889.
889.
Yeah.
Okay. And Matt Cliff is double T's.
MATT. And Cliff is CLIFF.
F.
No E on the end of it.
Okay, perfect. Matt,
Amazing.
Thanks ever so much.
Thanks so much, Barbara.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to The Unlikely Executive. If today's conversation sparked a new idea, inspired a shift, or gave you the nudge to step into your purpose, embrace it and take action. Remember to like, share and subscribe so you don't miss opportunities that can transform the way you lead, work and live your life. I'm Barbara Carlyle, Executive Coach, Mentor and Trainer. You can find my details in the show notes, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about the show and about your own journey. Until next time, take that step to be more authentically you, live your purpose and enjoy making a positive impact.